tell us why you think jumping in the water is such a refreshing experience and why your community of people find it so beneficial.
When people always ask me, like, oh, why do you do it? And I'm not a scientist, and I'm not going to try and explain it because I probably won't do a very good job, but I'll speak from my perspective first, and that's, for as long as I can remember, I've always woken up feeling negative. I never wake up and go, I'm happy to be awake. Not that I'm sad or suicidal by any means, but I never wake up and about. And that's just something that I've registered and identified, and that's up to me to overcome it. My process is to, in the morning, I got it tattooed on my chest as a reminder. It says PMA, like positive mental attitude. I never wake up with it. So it's like, all right, so when I wake up in the morning, we usually get in the water in winter at 6 a.m. Monday to Friday. So I was like, okay, well, before I get there, I'm gonna have a cold shower at 4:30. I'm gonna go train for an hour and then I'll get in the water. Because if I'm leading it, I need to lead by example. I don't want to show up and need it. I want to show I already have it and then lead the way. So for me, it's just a way to get my head in a place where I want to be, where I'm feeling confident, my chest is up, I'm happy to be there.
The team is quiet, yeah, we were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan.
Welcome back to the Lionstone podcast. Today, again, we are joined by Mr. Matthew.
Hello.
I was expecting more than that, but...
Hello, welcome back to the Lionstone podcast.
Thank you. Perfect.
There you go.
And we are also joined by a very, very special guest. We are joined by Jai. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome.
Oh, terrific, man. Terrific. So we're going to kind of jump into a bunch of different things today, but Jai is from the Cold Water Club. Have you done any cold water stuff before, Matt?
Yes.
Yeah.
A little bit.
More than just like outside of like cold showers and stuff.
No. So Jai and I have had a conversation before this about my inability to get into the cold water. So tell us how you started that real quick.
I guess essentially how it started, I'd been doing it for a while solo and with a couple of friends here and there, and always thought, wow, it'd be cool to do this with a group or a community, and always just had that voice in my head like, oh, I can never do that. Like, what if people think it's stupid and so on? Long story short, like most things start, there was a breakup. I was going there every day, getting a lot out of it. And I just thought it'd be selfish not to share it with as many people as I could. And that was, June last year, the start of the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And it started, on a Sunday. I posted a video on my personal Instagram just saying, hey, everyone, I've been doing this. It makes me feel this way for this reason. Every Sunday I'll be there at 10 a.m. and whoever wants to come join. And then the first Sunday it was like me and maybe 7 of people that I knew kind of just over social media. And then the next week it was 15 and then it was 20 and then it was 30 and then, had up to 90 people there and had the project come chat to us and stuff like that and ended up raising money for initiative for mental health. And it just was just this organic growth just from a positive intention of just sharing something that gave me a lot of value with as many people as I could.
That's mad.
That's pretty. Yeah, you're right. It's mad. I was going to say pretty crazy, but yeah,
It's
mad works too.
Like the power of social media, just like you tell one person, they tell a couple people, they tell a couple of people, and then all of a sudden you've got a community of like-minded people in the beach in the middle of winter and just getting after it. That's
Did you expect it to get that big?
There was no expectation. Like for me, like it sounds in a way a little bit selfish, but I was just dealing with my own stuff at the time. And I just thought, this is doing me such good. Like, surely other people getting something out of it for their own reasons, whether it be maybe a breakup as well, or maybe just general stuff. Like, everyone's got their own story, right? And it just came to, I didn't have an intention other than sharing it because I got something out of it. And there was no growth intention. And then when we had that momentum, it was like, oh, well, now I've got a platform to do something positive. I never had a platform before. So it's like, oh, well, now we've got a platform. Let's at least do something with it rather than just waste it. That's when we jumped on board with another network and done some mental health fundraising and just a few events. And at the end of the day, it just turned into a community, which I think most people crave to be a part of something and just feel like they fit in. And
yeah, definitely.
I think the point of it was that there was never any need for an invitation or expectation. You didn't have to be there. If you weren't there, no one cared. But if you were there, it was just all love and people were just there for their own reasons. I remember one day, one of my friends is a videographer and I asked him to come do a clip, just film everyone jumping in and just hanging out, whatever. And it's the middle of winter, so it's, 5-6 degrees and it's weird. Like when he sent me the video, I watched it and I was like very emotional, like choked up. And I was like, whoa, this is weird because how I used to socialize, it was around drinking and being cool and doing drugs and, party boy stuff that I thought people liked and thought that people wanted that from me, which was just me just being insecure about who I was. So it's like, oh, wow, I've got 40, 50 people here on a Sunday in the dead of winter. and you watch the video, everyone's so happy, and it's like, well, why are people here? People are just here just to be around other people who are there for their reasons. And everyone's hugging and jumping in the water and laughing. It's like no one's getting anything out of this from anyone other than just sharing a moment together. And that was like, oh, this is the most pure thing I've ever been involved in. And I remember when we had all this growth, I remember speaking to a friend of mine, or my accountant, and we had all these ideas around, you know, we've got this big community and platform and movement and momentum. It's like, oh, logically, how do we monetize it? And we had like a few ideas. And then I remember after like a week of thinking about it, I was like, nah, I'm never monetizing this. Like I'll sell some hoodies and some t-shirts, sweet, but I'm never going to monetize it. It's just too pure. I didn't want to taint it. And I've never been involved in anything like that, let alone, you know, I don't like to say it out loud all the time, but let alone be the person who, you know, started it. It's very humbling. And it doesn't even feel that way, to be honest. I'm just a part of it. It's never been about me. It's just been about having a community that everyone can access for their own reasons.
Do you find that a lot of people that have joined, obviously you've been doing it for a while now, and you would get shared stories with people and they're coming down. Do you think a lot of people, or from your experience, have they been in similar situations to you, like a breakup or like lost a loved one or something like that? Like what are the kind of stories that you've been, obviously without sharing names, with what's that open to you up to as a person?
Oh, it's super, what's the word? Like it's confronting in a way, because I don't look at myself as this person who's got it figured out, but people think I've got it figured out for some reason.
If you can get into cold water, you got to figure it out.
I've got no idea what I'm doing, but I just made a decision a few years ago to just hold my character and do everything with a positive intention and do things for the right reason. So people just made an assumption that, you know, I've got it worked out. So I hear a lot of confronting stories, but also really beautiful stories. Like I will get messages on a regular basis, people like, oh, you know, I've been through a divorce and I was lost and I've came down and everyone's been so welcoming. It's given me a purpose, given me a reason to get up in the morning. And for me, like, we're just getting in the water, man. Like, we're doing it with hugs. We're doing it, you know, to make everyone feel welcome. And we're doing it, you know, in a way that, for me, like community is about holding each other accountable. And it doesn't have to be in an aggressive way or anything like that. But how we do that is we get a picture every time. And so you know if you're there, you're in the photo. And it's very unsaid. Like no one ever says, hey, where you been? But it's like, well, if you're there, you're there.
You know what? Funny you mentioned that, because the other night I was looking at my Instagram feed and I saw my jiu-jitsu club. They post photos of every class. And I was like, fuck, I'm not in the photo. I'm not in the photo. I fucking left. I didn't go. So that's really interesting. And thank you for sharing that. So tell me, like, obviously there's the scientific benefits of cold water, all that kind of shit. Let's leave that at the door for now, because there's 1,000,001 podcasts about that. Tell us why you think jumping in the water is such a refreshing experience, and why your community of people find it so beneficial.
Well, I'll speak from my perspective, and like what you said about the science, when people always ask me, because I'm down there a lot, and I get, especially at the start, like, oh, why do you do it? And I'm not a scientist, and I'm not going to try and explain it, because I probably won't do a very good job, but I'll speak from my perspective first, and that's, for as long as I can remember, I've always woken up feeling negative. I never wake up and go, I'm happy to be awake. Not that I'm, like, sad or suicidal by any means, but I never wake up and about. And that's just something that I've registered and identified, and that's up to me to overcome it, which I like it, because if I feel that way, I know how to overcome it. So my process is to, in the morning, I got it tattooed on my chest as a reminder. It says PMA, like positive mental attitude. I never wake up with it. So it's like, all right, so when I wake up in the morning, we usually get in the water in winter at 6 a.m. Monday to Friday. So I was like, okay, well, before I get there, I'm going to have a cold shower at 4:30. I'm going to go train for an hour, and then I'll get in the water. Because if I'm leading it, I need to lead by example. I don't want to show up and need it. I want to show that I already have it and then lead the way. So for me, it's just a way to get my head in a place where I want to be, where I'm feeling confident, my chest is up, I'm happy to be there. Because as a kid, I never felt like that. I always felt, you know, I wanted to be someone else. I didn't feel confident in myself. So for me, that just gives me an ability outside of training and all these other things we can do, another avenue to build that confidence, have my chest up and feel happy to be who I am.
And do you notice people when they're coming out of the water, do you notice that they've got a different posture? They're completely different. So like, tell me like a little bit about their experience. Like obviously you've seen people come for their first time and maybe be a bit nervous to go in, and then now they've been going for a certain amount of time. And
I've got the perfect case study. So he won't mind me saying his name. His name's Harry, and he's a very close friend of mine. Yeah, he's a good man. And I met Harry middle of winter. I also do disability work, so he does that as well. And we just cross paths that way at a trampoline place, believe it or not.
Bounce?
Yeah. And he said, oh man, I've seen your cold water club stuff. My best friend comes down. I really want to come down. I said, oh, well, why don't you come down? He goes, oh, you know, I want to. I said, well, you know, I'm not going to push you for it, but come down. Like, you're always welcome to come in. I'll come down with you, whatever. And whenever someone messaged me or interacted with me, I said, oh, I'll meet you there early. We'll go for a walk first and just kind of warm you into it. Just like a nice way to start the day rather than just going in with a group, not know anyone. Go for a walk with me and then, you feel a bit more comfortable. And then after winter, we kept it running. And I remember I saw him one day and he just came down. He would just come down and watch. I just put it on him. I said, hey, man, like you're coming down and watching. Just fucking get in. Like, why are you wasting your time? Like, you can do it. Anyone can do it. And then we ended up going for a walk. He said, oh, well, I was going to ask you about some training because I just don't like how I feel as a person. Like, I'm not confident to get in the water and all these reasons. And, he was doing a lot of things he was regretting, like drinking and, alcohol and drugs and that kind of thing. And anyway, he became a PT client and he wasn't ready for any coaching commitment like that. So I said, just come in the gym, get come from the gym. And, that's step number one. And then we can go to the next step. And now you fast forward, it's been probably 6 to 8 weeks. He's training in the gym, being coached by me, doesn't need me. He's training independently. He's pretty much stopped drinking, stopped doing drugs, and he's been at the Cold Water Club every day, and he's like leading it. I'm not there Monday to Friday. He brings a speaker, he's up and about, he leads the gratitude circle, and we do that kind of stuff. And like, you reference it to who he was 3 months ago. It's someone who he thought he could never be. And I think the Cold Water Club had a huge, like, significant factor in that happening.
That's nuts.
That's pretty big.
Yeah. Tell me about the gratitude circle.
So we don't do it every time. At the start, like in winter, it's fucking cold. Like it's like, anywhere between 0 to 10 degrees outside and the water, it hovers around, 13, 12 degrees, which doesn't sound cold, but it's fucking freezing. And
especially when you get out at that temperature.
Yeah, your skin burns. But essentially what we done, the method behind the madness was we done 9 minutes in the water because in 2020 there was 9 suicides a day.
Fuck.
So I guess the concept was like, if there's 9 suicides a day, it's like, well, then we can spend 9 minutes in the water being uncomfortable. Is a bit of like, because people who feel suicidal, like I can't say because I've never felt that way, luckily, but they feel alone. They feel like the world's against them. So it was like a silent salute to say, hey, you're not by yourself kind of thing. And I didn't lead, like this wasn't my idea. We just kind of jumped on board with another network called Zoop. But when you're in the water for 9 minutes, you start shivering, you start having all these thoughts. Oh no, I'm going to get sick. So we go, all right, well, let's do a circle and we'll just go around and I always lead the way. Hi, my name's Jai. Today I want to say that I'm grateful for my sister coming because I love my sister and it's good to share this with her. We go around the circle and then usually by the end of that, if there's, 40, 50, 60 people there, 9 minutes is up, we jump out.
Yeah, that's crazy. So what a good way to like get through it as well.
So it's like a bit of a distraction, but it opens people up as well. Do you find that you get, when you do those gratitude circles, you get stories out of them?
Oh yeah, like it not every time, but there'll be occasions when people would say something and, be tearing up. Like one of the big, like not biggest members, one of the ladies who I spent a lot of time with, her name was Jo, and she was spending a lot of time with her son. It's like mum and son would come and it was beautiful to see, and they seemed to have this great relationship, which they did, but you wouldn't know that, they were going through it behind closed doors, and that gave them an outlet to share something together that was positive, to hold each other accountable. And, there's a couple of times when she would mention that and not necessarily go into full depth, but there'll be tears and then I'll be choked up and all of a sudden you're sharing this moment.
Yeah, fuck.
That would be pretty big. So it must be a pretty tight-knit community to open up in front of 60 people like that.
Yeah, well, I think it's just inspiring because when you're in the water, it's like anything. You can't hide. Like, you're going to be fucking cold. So there's no point trying to put in a facade and ego because your body's not going to let you.
Yeah, it really strips that down, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like the gym. Like the weights are the weights.
Yeah.
You know who's someone, you can see someone with an ego straight away, and same in the water.
Yeah. That's crazy. Like the gratitude thing as well. I think if you have a group of people who are already going and getting in the water and have shared in the past, and then if someone's brand new to that, do you find that they feel pretty comfortable sharing as well, just straight off the bat, maybe something they wouldn't share, call it on land, just because they're around, they're on land, because they're around people who are doing the same thing. They feel connected to the group instantly.
I think it obviously ranges person to person, but very common, definitely. Like there's been one guy, I won't say his name, but he came, would have been maybe 6 weeks ago, maybe 7 or 8 weeks ago, and he's been pretty much every day, like hasn't missed more than 1 day in a row. And I got this big message from him on New Year's, just it was he had to do 2 messages because it was so big, and it made me like nearly cry because he's just like, man, like I've never felt so comfortable with the community. I've been going through X, Y, and Z, and the fact that like when I first met him, I was like, I say to everyone, I'm like, oh hey man, how you going? It's my first time. Give him a hug, come on in, make a bit of a joke, and then from then on, it's like, oh well, that's what we do. We give each other a hug, whatever. And and the fact that like if I can lead that way, everyone else leads that way as well. And some people aren't huggers, but fuck it, sorry, we're hugging you.
It's all consensual. Of course. That's
On land.
mad. We talk about a lot about routine on this podcast. I think we talk about it a lot because we struggle with it. So like we like to get people's opinion on routine, and obviously this is a big part of your routine. So if you don't mind sharing with all the listeners at home, how do you structure your mornings?
So my mornings consist of I wake up, and that will vary between 4 to 5 a.m. depending what day it is. I go to the toilet, have a cold shower with no hot water, I dry off, brush my teeth, get ready, and then I go train straight away.
Yeah.
Personally, without that, as I said, like honestly, I kind of fall apart a bit. I just don't have that confidence that I want to have, and it takes me a while to get it without that.
Do you think that's more of a grounding thing, or is that because you're conquering that, like, not depressed, but when you're waking up not feeling like you want to?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's like that whole concept, like you make your bed in the morning, you got an achievement done, it rolls on to the next one. So
That fucking speech.
yeah.
you know the one that I fucking love that speech. I listen to it. If you make your bed, you will come home to a bed that is made by you.
Do you make your bed every morning?
Not every morning.
Nah.
The cold shower is my thing.
Yeah,
Cold shower.
I'm like, if I do the cold shower, I'm not making my fucking bed.
Well, I think having a cold shower is much harder than making your bed.
Yeah,
Start
definitely.
with making your bed. If you haven't got the routine in place, then go to the cold shower. So you go straight up cold water, no hot.
That's what I was literally about to ask.
Yeah.
Is that how you started? Did you
Yeah.
just go
Yep.
straight to 100%, or did you go?
That's not how I started. No.
Okay.
When I first started, it was hot, finish cold, which I think's just like it's not any harder, to be honest. You just get to be comfortable. For
If
a bit.
anything, it's
harder.
worse.
Yeah.
because you know the comfort,
Yeah,
you know the warmth.
yeah, that's fair.
And it gives you a high contrast as well, because obviously
Yeah.
you're hot and then you're freezing cold.
You're freezing
Yeah.
cold.
I do that.
Do you?
Yeah, occasionally. If I'm really tired, if I had a shit night's sleep,
Yeah.
I find it just like gives me a little bit extra before I can get to some sort of caffeine.
How long are you spending in that cold shower?
So I used to time it, and then the time just became irrelevant. So what I do is every time I put the cold on, and immediately I'm just angry. I don't know what I'm angry at. I'm just like angry that I'm cold. I'm like,
Cold water.
I'm not happy about this. And
Cold
then
water hates me.
Yeah, so I stay under it until I'm not angry anymore. Until I'm like, oh, okay, I'm over it now.
Yeah.
But usually that's between 1 to 2 minutes usually.
And do you find yourself, like when you first started to now, like I know when I was doing cold showers, like I would fucking breathe real heavy. Like I'd suck in heaps of oxygen, and like it eventually would get okay and you could just stand there. Do you still get that initial like massive sucking of oxygen? Never.
Yeah, I think it depends more on the season. Like right now it's quite warm.
Yeah.
So in winter I still get it 100%. But it's more around like how fast can I adapt now?
Yeah.
I do ice bars and stuff like that as well
Yeah.
on a regular basis.
Do you have an ice
I
bath?
don't
at
have
home?
one. I'm a member at one of my friends has a gym, and I go use his.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man.
2-3 times a week.
I want an ice bath badly.
So do you do that instead of going into the ocean?
Oh, I do both.
You do both?
Yeah, I do both. Yeah.
Fucking sad. Well, cold water, then cold plunge, then cold
Yeah,
ocean.
That was the joke, because like in winter I was doing it 3 times a day, 3-4 times a day. Yeah.
That's
Was that just more of like a mental challenge for you?
It wasn't even a challenge, man. I enjoyed it. Like,
Just do it.
Yeah, like you feel it's like one of those things. Like the best way to describe the timeline is like I'll get out of the cold water, say today, and then the rest of the day I'm going, man, that was amazing. I can't wait for tomorrow. You wake up in the morning, and go, fuck, I don't do it. Fuck that. And then I go train. I'm on the way after the gym to the beach. I'm like, fuck, don't want to do it. Get out of the car. Everyone's standing around. Fuck this. Jump in the water, shivering. I hate this. Get in the car and you're like, this. That was mad.
You got this rush of endorphins. You're like, oh, I fucking love life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. And I draw similar parallels to cold water as jiu-jitsu, right? But for the reason for me when I was doing cold water is because like your body thinks it's literally fight or flight, right? You're like, this is the worst part of my day. If I can get through this, then I can do anything. For me with jiu-jitsu, it's a similar thing. If I've got someone who's taken my back and they're choking me out, I'm like, this is the worst part of my day, literally, because I'm about to die. And if I don't if I can get past this and just humble my ego and tap out, then I can finish the rest of the day. I'm like, oh, that was fucking mad. I almost died.
It's like a bit of an adrenaline rush.
Well, it's an adrenaline rush, but also like it puts a lot of things into perspective. So like anxiety after a jiu-jitsu session or cold water, it just dissipates because it's just like we're all filled with anger. Like we get that anger and then it just goes away. And it's just like, oh, life ain't that bad. Like
No, that's true.
I'm happy now. Like,
Yeah. My favorite term on that is like I'm not like crazy into his methods in every perspective, but Wim Hof says it the best. He said, if you don't find the cold will find you. What he means by that is like life's full of adversity. And if you go chase it with jiu-jitsu or cold water or boxing or whatever it is that to you is chasing adversity, then when it finds you, you're like semi-prepared, right? Like, you know, everyone thinks life's hard until someone dies. Then life's really hard. Like, then your job you don't care about your job or your money or whatever. They're very trivial. So it's like, if you can chase the hard things on a daily basis, then when there's stuff that's way harder, at least you're going to be semi-prepared.
Yeah, interesting. That's that put a lot into perspective. Do you feel like since you started doing cold water stuff that your mindset has shifted from something far more negative in the beginning?
Oh, definitely. 100%. I've been doing it since the very first lockdown. So it's been, 2 or 3 years now. But I remember what put it into perspective for me really was I was doing it, and then a friend of mine committed suicide. He was like, you know when you're like 5 and you have your first friend who lives on the same street as you? Like the first time you meet someone's on your street. So he unfortunately took his own life, and I'd been doing it for a while, and then that reintroduced me with his brother, and we were really close, spent a lot of time together. He was struggling, so I took him down to the water, would train together, go in the water, and just try and get him, you know, out of that headspace of, you know, life is the worst. And then it came down to, we were spending a lot of time together, and he was saying, oh, I don't know how I'm going to speak at his funeral. And I was just, oh, I'll do it for you if you want me to say your words for you. And then he asked me to do it. I was thinking, yeah, sweet. And then it came to the day, and I've never been so anxious and scared in my entire life. My whole body was like convulsing to a degree. And then I ended up stepping up to the stage and doing the speech for him and looking at his family who had just lost their son and their brother. And then I said my speech. And I remember like holding back tears and shaking. And I remember sitting down going, well, if it wasn't, it sounds cliche, but it wasn't for me chasing adversity, not just cold water, but, you know, the gym and all the like journaling and all these things I do to try and become better and reaffirm who I am and my character. There's no way I could go up and do that. And that's my comparison of that's life actual is hard and everything else is trivial. Like going in the water, trivial compared to someone dying. Going to the gym every morning at 4:30 in the morning, trivial compared to someone dying.
It's true.
Your girlfriend breaking up with you, trivial compared to someone dying.
100%. And I think we all forget that. And the easiest way to compare is just if you go through something tragic, you just realize none of this matters. None of this matters except for the relationships that you have with people and how you kind of treat yourself. That's insane. That's a fuck. Now I want to jump in the water.
Only an hour drive away.
Oh no, we're like 2 minutes from the beach.
No, we're going to my spot.
We're going to your spot. It's better than there. Yeah, fair enough.
I think every beach is better than Altona Beach.
Oh, no, I was talking about Williamstown Beach.
Oh, fair, okay, yeah.
Not Altona Beach. Jump in the water, it's just swimming in syringes. Yeah, this is mad. Cold water. I'm getting this weird high. So you train a lot. You train every day?
I force myself to have a rest day.
Yeah.
Like we all have to, but like it's like everything. Like I don't feel myself if I don't train.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, physically, I have to have a rest day.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of like training for you box as well.
Yeah.
So run us through like what you kind of do. Not so much just like, yes, you do weights, fantastic, but like kind of talk us about why you do the other things as well. So boxing, that kind of stuff, and how it impacts you.
Yeah, I guess like from a young age in unboxing and just more like hobbyist, like in and out of it, nothing really serious. And when I was younger, like 17, 18, I was like, oh, I'm going to have a fight. And I remember the reason I said that was because I was really insecure. It was ego driven. And I thought, if I have a fight, then people won't look at me as this person who's not confident. So it was very false. And then I ended up falling out of boxing for a while. And then I remember I started seeing a girl, and in my mind, it's like, well, if I've got a girlfriend and we're out in public, I have to take care of her. So I started doing boxing again because I wanted to be sharp.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I went through the weights very committed the last, 12 to 18 months and had some really great results personally in my own world. And then got to the point where I still love it, but I like that scary fire, like that, like, this is hard. But for me, the weights become very habitual and the eating's very habitual. Like it's still a challenge sometimes, but it's not hard. So it's like, okay, I want to do something really hard. So I joined a boxing gym and like I was there this morning and it's fucking hell.
Shout out your boxing gym.
Sting in Frankston.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah, with Laurie. He's the man. He used to be Special Forces. He's a very scary man.
And he's just going to hold the mitts for you and watch out.
Yeah.
So talk about, boxing as a martial art, which it is. I would call it a martial art, not just a sport. How does that impact your ability to do everything else in life? Because martial artists, they seem to have a good grip on ego. So how does that impact the rest of your life?
I feel like capacity equals real confidence. Like if you're capable of something, you're capable of self-defending, you don't feel the need to tell anyone. You don't feel the need to feel insecure because you're capable. Same with, you know, when you're in a room of people and you don't feel as though you're stupid. Like, you don't have to try and sound smart because you know that you can hold a conversation and so forth. So for me, boxing was just around like that really cliche quote, like, you know, you'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah, I love that quote.
I love everyone, but I don't want to be I don't want to have to love everyone just because I can't do anything about it. You know what I mean? I want to be capable. Like if I'm, you know, with my girlfriend or my partner or whatever it is, I want to be able to take care of them. I've got kids. I want to be able to protect my family. Like it's just, as a man, it sounds like, you know, kind of silly and maybe masculine, but I think that's an important
Masculine's not silly.
Yeah,
like,
like, I feel like it'd be really misunderstood sometimes. So
yeah.
like for me, it's like, I used to say to my ex-partner, like, if someone breaks in the house, I'm grabbing the machete, I'm going down there. But if there's a ghost, I'm hiding with the ghost. I don't play with ghosts.
Yeah, fuck that. I was thinking about that the other day because I have a 2-story house and I'm like, if someone broke in, what would I do? And because I sleep almost naked. I'm fucking running out there with my cock out. I do not give a fuck. Everyone's got a plan. You know that Mike Tyson. You know that Mike Tyson quote. Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a plan breaking into my house until they get pissed on.
You've got 2 dogs though. They sleep inside, don't they?
Yeah, but they're fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Like, or actually, no. One of them will bark, and he's got a scary bark, especially in the dark. Fuck that. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
Like, if he barked at me in the dark, I'd be like, I chose the wrong house. I chose the wrong house.
Yeah. That's why I have a German Shepherd.
Yeah, you're a German Shepherd who's locked into this back half of the house.
He's got I bought him a brand new couch that he sleeps on.
Fantastic.
He has a couch, but yeah,
and a machete.
he's a pussy.
Yeah,
he's all bark, no bite.
All bark.
I've
Well,
never seen,
that's all you need.
That's all you need.
Yeah, until they actually break in the house, then he just like licks them.
Back to what we were saying. So having that ability to defend yourself, I think, is incredibly important. I think. I don't give a fuck if I get hate for this. I think it's necessary for anyone to be able to defend themselves in any capacity because you never know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to be on holiday in a country that's not as safe as where you grow up, and you may need to do something, and you may need to be able to defend yourself against getting kidnapped if you're a girl, all that kind of stuff. I think people get into martial arts and those kind of endeavors with the idea of self-defense, and they come out of it with a lot more of like discipline and all that kind of stuff. Because like the guys that I've met through jiu-jitsu and the guys I know who box are so disciplined. Like they just, mind you, they'll be disciplined in their craft and all this kind of stuff. And especially with jiu-jitsu guys, you'll meet like the skinniest guy ever who doesn't lift weights, who eats terribly, smokes a lot of pot, but is an absolute killer because he trains jiu-jitsu 10 times a week. And like, he'll be successful in his job, but because he's nailed that and he still does all of the right things to create that discipline. So in terms of you, and how do you fit everything into your day? Because cold water, getting up early, training clients, training in the gym, boxing, having kids.
Yeah.
How do you fit that in?
Oh, honestly, it's just like anything. Like, as I said earlier, people think that other people got it worked out. People think I've got it worked out. I've got nothing worked out. Like I'm like regularly overwhelmed on a regular basis to go do some breath work and not cry sometimes. But like I know I was in a relationship for a long time and now I'm single. So I was like, I've got the power to do all these things. I live by myself. I don't have a TV in my house. I've just got a big whiteboard.
You don't have a TD?
No.
TV?
What's a TD?
No.
I don't have a TD or a TV.
How do you watch the newest episode of Love Island every night?
Yeah, right. So do you like value your time very, very highly?
Oh, probably. Like I do. It's just like the honest truth is like it's not half you not to have a TV. I just don't really want to watch one. Like
yeah.
I think I need to kind of downplay. Like people go, oh, like I can't believe you're so disciplined to get up and go to the gym and not watch TV. It's like, oh, but I want to do those things. I'm just lucky that I enjoy those things more than most people. I don't know. But like coming back to a bit of why, it's like the boxing thing for me was important because when I was younger, like I'd go out and, you know, maybe have a few drinks and get in a stupid fight. And that was all just a reflection of me being insecure and having to do something because I felt like I couldn't probably.
Yeah.
So like boxing for me is nothing to do with self-defense. Honestly, it's more just knowing that I know that I'll be a more confident and better version of myself if I don't have any insecurities. And I'm always going to have them. But it's just one that I'm in a bit more control over. It's
almost like if you weed out those insecurities in the ring, they won't be prevalent if you did go out for a drink or whatever, or you went out for dinner and there's someone there. You wouldn't need to put yourself in those situations where in the past you maybe voluntarily put yourself in those situations to like prove a point.
Yeah, uphold an image.
Yeah.
Because I didn't, like, I speak about it a lot to anyone I speak to. Like, There was such a long time that I had no confidence and I lacked it so heavily. And, you know, when I'd be with people, I would be trying to be what they wanted me to be because I wanted them to accept me and think that I was, you know, cool, whatever you want to call it. And the reason why I couldn't be myself is two reasons. Number one, I thought that if I was myself, that people wouldn't like it, then I'd feel shit. But also, I didn't know who the fuck I was. I didn't know what I valued. I didn't know what was special to me. Like, obviously got all the basic things. So, like, about 4 years ago, I decided just to isolate myself from my whole social circle, essentially, and work out who the fuck I was. Because how can you be yourself if you don't know who you are?
Yeah.
To someone listening, how would you recommend they start to learn who they are?
Spend time alone. The hardest thing you can do.
Yeah.
Through lockdown, I had like no responsibilities. I'd get up at 4 a.m. every morning and journal and read, and I hated it. And like meditate and stuff like that. Because whenever I close my eyes, be myself, I was like, oh, I can't do this. I thought it was just because I had ADHD or something. But I was like, no, I just wasn't comfortable with who I was. I didn't even know who I was. So the more time I spent by myself, the more I got accustomed to, okay, well, who am I? And then when I actually worked out who it was, it's like, oh, now I'm happy to be around other people because I'm not trying to work it out along the way or like trying to mold it by any means.
Did your friends change when you figured out who you really were?
Yeah, it was stages. Like I've always been a social butterfly, but the group I spend my time with the most, like at first, like the first 6 to probably 12 months, everyone was just super resentful. Like, oh, you think you're this, you think you're better than us, you want to come out and do this. And I was just trying to better myself and I just like let it roll off my back the best I could. And, but the thing was it rolled off my back quite easily because it sounds mean, but when the people I was hanging out with, I didn't admire them. They didn't inspire me. So if they didn't agree with it, good. I don't want them to agree with it because nothing they're doing is anything I want to be like. And then after that period of time, eventually, not everyone, but then people start, you know, clapping you from a distance or reaching out and saying, you're doing this, you're doing that. It's really cool. I'm actually admiring it. But yeah, I feel like, you know, I got a really good bit of advice from someone. And I remember saying like, oh, you know, I don't know what to do. Like all my friends doing this and I want to do my own thing, but I can't. And they said, well, you be the leader because are you going to wait for someone else in the group to do it or are you going to do it first? I was like, fuck it. I'm going first. And that was like how the Cold Water Club started. It's like a real leader goes first. So I'll jump in the water first. I'll be vulnerable first. I'll talk about my insecurities first because if I do it, then you're more comfortable to talk about your vulnerabilities and your insecurities. And I feel like it's okay to have the, like if you're really masculine and you're really comfortable as a man, then you can be vulnerable because you've got the masculinity to back it up.
Yeah.
That's a very, very well said.
Yeah, very, very well said.
And I fully agree. Like I went through something similar when like I was getting people being like, why are you going to the gym? Like, what are you doing? Like even my family, they were like, why are you going at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym before you go to work? Or why are you going when you get home from work and it's like midnight? And I'm like, well, I'm just doing it. Like no one else is doing it with me. And then one person I worked with was like, I like what you're doing. Like, do you want to train together? And I was like, yeah, sweet. And then from there, I just built it back up of having a social circle with people that were cheering you on. And then even that social circle can start to pull you down as well if you start doing other stuff. So that's probably interesting as well. When you go through those phases of life, if you are continuously growing, the people around you have a choice to continuously grow as well, or they have a choice to stay there. Because you might go and train and make friends in the gym, but if you then say you want to start boxing, people in the gym will be like, oh, what are you doing cardio for? Like, and then they isolate you for that. And then when they see an Instagram video of you hitting the mitts or you do an amateur fight or something like that, they might come back and be like, oh, do you mind showing me something? Like, it's really interesting to see how as you get older and you go through these big phases, what you value changes, but people can kind of either keep up or they can just stay the same. And so many people stay the same.
And like, it just reflects how people feel. I think like if you're in a group and everyone is on the same level per se and someone starts bettering themselves, people want to pull you down because it makes them feel, oh, well, no, we're meant to be the same. So they don't want you to be doing anything better because they feel like they can't do it maybe, or they're insecure about it. Like I remember when I started boxing, I ended up losing a friendship because I went out, I didn't drink for a long time and I went out, had a couple of drinks. I didn't get drunk by any means, but one of my friends who was living with me at the time ended up trying to fight me because, oh, you think you're so good because you do boxing and this and that. And like, no, that's just an insecurity that you've got. And now you're trying to like hide that insecurity by trying to fight me.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with me. It's just something to do with, it's just like people will very easily reflect how they are inside, especially when you're doing something that's has nothing to do with them and is purely just for your benefit. People want to be able to justify why they're not doing it, and that just comes out, you know, it just shows who they are really quickly.
Yeah.
Like, the universe is a mirror. That's all I was saying. Like you if you put out negativity, you're going to be faced with negativity. If you put out positivity, you're going to be faced with positivity. But if you have always been negative and you start putting out positivity, that negativity will challenge you, and you will be challenged, and you will have to remove people from your life or change your habits or whatever it is to become that positive version of yourself.
Yeah, I think it's a very rare quality, especially in people, when you find a group of friends that actually want you to do better. I think that's very, very rare.
Did you find that?
Yeah, I manifested it, man. Like,
yeah.
As I said, like I was lucky because right as I made this change, I had a new relationship. So I was like, oh, well, I don't mind being isolated because I've got someone at home who's happy to support me and I spend time with her. So for a long time, I didn't have any friends, and I had friends, I just didn't really socialize. And after about 18 months, I made a decision. I said, nah, whoever I spend my time around, I have to either admire them or they have to inspire me. It can be big or small. It could be, oh, they inspire me because they're so nice. It doesn't have to be something monumental. Just how they carry themselves, whatever. And now I've got like 3 best friends or 4 best friends, and none of them are perfect, and neither am I, but they hold me accountable. They're positive. They support me, and there's no skin. It's not like a skin deep relationship, which is what I had for years. Like, you think I didn't know what friendship was till I was 26, because I thought,
fuck, I'm still figuring out.
I thought friendship was, being a part of a group and hanging out and sharing interests. But I done a personal development course last year with a guy called Corey Boutwell, and I finished up and we had this massive conversation similar to this. And he said, Jai, I fucking love you. I want you in my life. And I was like, oh, that's really nice. And he said, oh, you know what friendship is? And I said, oh, I've got an idea, but I can't articulate it. And he goes, friendship is 2 people who inspire each other. No transaction. There's no expectation. Like, that's all it is. Like, I'm inspired by you. You're inspired by me. And if we happen to spend time together or communicate, that's a plus. And it was just like, wow, that just described why I'm friends with the people I'm friends with. Just because I admire them for some reason, or they inspire me, and vice versa. There's no expectation. Like, you shouldn't have to maintain a friendship.
Yeah, that's a.
Do you think that frees you of expectations in a friendship too?
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's like the classic. Like, if you let someone in traffic and then you get angry because they don't wave and say thank you, it's like, well, you're doing it for the wrong reason. Same with friendship. Like, if you're just friends with me because I can offer you something of value, being a part of a community or free entry to a gym or whatever it might be, well, fuck, is that really a friendship? I don't think so. And obviously, it has to be some kind of mutual value in some way, but it doesn't have to be, tangible value.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoy your fucking company.
Yeah. Do you feel like within your friends there's any level of like competition between the 2 of you, like the 4 of you, to try and be better, or not necessarily better than one another, but always try and improve in some aspect?
Oh, 100%. Like, I've got, like, there's 2 of my friends, and I'll say, like, a big thing for me was like identifying my weaknesses. And everyone's got them, but I used to hide from them because they made me uncomfortable. And then I worked out, oh, well, if I identify them, I can overcome them much easier. And then, like, there's 2 of my friends who are just very far ahead financially, and it's super inspiring. And I'll ask them for, their advice or their feedback. I was doing it yesterday. I had one of my friends come over, not last night, the night before. I showed him my whiteboard. Here are my plans for the year. Give me your feedback. And he's someone who, like, I'll tell anyone anything of my business. I don't give a fuck what they think. But my 4 best friends, if I tell them, I'm like nervous. Like, oh, what are they going to say? Like, I really care about what he says. I was really scared. But anyone else, I'll tell anyone anything. And I sat there just in the hot seat, like sweating, because I value his opinion. I value him as a person. And he just gave me some great feedback and gave me some constructive criticism. And it was just super valuable.
Yeah. How do you feel like you went about working on your weaknesses?
I guess the best way I could articulate it was, like, I went on my own journey about 4 or 5 years ago, as I said, and just tried to change who I was for the better. And then I done this personal development course last year, and a part of that course was that, like, what are your weaknesses? And it had all these words on a piece of paper on the computer screen. You had to pick out the ones that resonated with you. And there was one, and I just couldn't look at it. Whenever I looked at it, I was like, oh, I don't want to look at it. And it said needy, because that just sounds so unattractive. Like, oh, needy. Fuck, I'm not needy. And then I just, like, sat down and I thought about it. I said, no, I am needy. I'm needy as fuck. But if I identify when I'm being needy, I will choose not to act that way. So for me, it's like, all right, I just want to know what my weaknesses are, the ones that make me feel something, the ones that make me feel uncomfortable and insecure. And then that way, when they come up, like, what are those actions? Like, oh, okay, well, I can just choose not to do those actions.
Yeah. Because I feel like a lot of people double down on their strengths, but always can, like, ignore the weaknesses entirely. And then when push comes to shove, when those weaknesses come up, you crumble.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how strong your strengths are. If your weaknesses are stronger, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
I find it really interesting that you bring that up, because for ages, your phone screen was like your strengths and weaknesses. Is that, why did you do that?
Because whenever we do our team meetings, there was one point where we had to. So I don't know. I don't think you were here for it, but
Don't think so.
So all the employees were brought into the room out here, and we sat down, and we had to read off the strengths and the weaknesses of the other people in the room. So we got 5 minutes to separate, write down like, cool, so and so is really good at this, really good at this, really good at this, but they're also not good at this, this, and this. Whether that's true or not, it was like perception is reality, right? So mine were, I think it was lack of empathy, and then just like very, very blunt when I say things. So like whether that's a bad thing or not, but some people perceive it as bad. So I had that on my phone as well as my strengths. I had my strengths and weaknesses on my phone, so I could be like, okay, cool, this is what I need to work on. Whether I did that every single day sometimes I forgot about it and I would just go back into old habits. But I feel like, especially the empathy one, I don't know if you can necessarily learn empathy.
100% you can.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
We'll come back to that in a sec. But I feel like it gave me a better grasp of like, okay, I could have handled that situation better. Next time, instead of using this phrase, and this phrase and just being fucking blunt with how I say it, I'm going to word it differently. Because everyone responds to, like you and I respond very well to direct feedback. Like, hey, Pat, you fucked up on this, fix this next time. But other people don't. And I think that's where I was just being like hitting everyone with the same brush and not changing up how I delivered information to people or feedback to people.
Yeah.
Because I don't fucking hate people. I'm not unempathetic. Like, if someone's upset or there's something wrong, like, I'll care. But
the reason I said empathy can be taught is because I think the way that you learn empathy is you understand the definition and then you practice it. So I can be empathetic towards anyone's situation if they tell me a scenario and I choose then to, this is a situation for me to be empathetic, learning when to like analyze the situation and then making a decision based on that and being like, this is a chance to deploy empathy.
Yeah.
I believe that there, and it may feel weird for the first couple being like, I cannot imagine like how you're feeling right now. That's awful, right? That's your first step. And then you start to understand what you're actually saying. And it's the fact that you're not trying to relate, but you're just trying to understand how they're feeling without any of your bias on them.
Yeah, because it's different to sympathy.
Exactly.
Not just feeling sorry for the person.
Exactly.
You're trying to actually understand.
Just to cut in, as I touched on earlier, I do disability work. So I've got 5 young boys who have
This
autism
is mad.
that I take care of.
Yeah.
So this is just to prove the point. Like, empathy can certainly be learned. Like, I've got boys who have, been diagnosed with being on the spectrum, and a big part of that is they don't really register with like facial recognition and empathy and other people's feelings. And that's not across the board. Like, there's this big broad spectrum that's so like no one understands it really. But essentially, I've witnessed boys building that capacity to understand empathy. Like, whether it be someone like one of the boys, Jacob, like he will visibly look at me and I can see him analyzing my like body language in my face, and he has to work it out. Rather than like me, I just feel like if I see someone they're sad, I've got a really high level of empathy. I'm really lucky like that. But for Jacob, he's never had that skill, so he's had to develop that skill. So yeah, definitely can be learned.
Yeah, this is something we've spoken about in the past as well, is working with boys with autism. That's that. If you want to learn empathy, like go and work in some kind of caring role, and don't just look after someone, but try and understand them as well. And like my life changed when I started mentoring kids with autism, because one, I realized, maybe I'm not as crazy as people thought I was. Like, there may be traits of being on the spectrum myself, and I felt understood. And being able to be in that position and then then looking at these kids and being like, okay, so some of them are hard work. Like, they are hard work for their parents, right? And then you pick them up, you take them to bounce. Like, I used to do that all the time. And you take them and you give their parents a break, and then you bring them home and you just see how thankful they are that you gave them some space. And it's not just learning empathy for the kid, but it's for the parents as well.
Family.
So how fucking hard it is to be a 24/7 parent, bring in an income, and then have a kid who's in high school that has really high needs and like doesn't understand social cues and doesn't understand the way that you think, and then trying to raise that child and provide for that child. It'd be so fucking hard, man.
Yeah. My mum's an occupational therapist, so she deals with that stuff all the time, and she's had mums, like, or parents call her and be like, do you know any people or any places that just take kids because I'm at a point now where I can't look after them anymore?
Yeah.
And they just have to give their children up. Yeah.
That's heavy. Like, but that's the thing. Like, when you bring a child into the world, you want to do it, but for all of the right reasons, right? You're a dad. Like you,
I'm not a dad.
Didn't you say you got kids?
No, I said if I had kids.
Oh fuck, man! I thought you said you had kids. I was like, fuck. Oh, now I look like a dickhead.
Not my fault.
When you want to bring kids, when you want to bring people into the world, you want to bring them in for the right reasons.
For sure.
So, like for me, for example, I want to bring in a kid to the world to show him this incredible experience that I've had. See how I said him? When I bring a child into the world, any gender, doesn't matter. I want them to experience the love and affection that I've had. But if I'm not good in myself, like, what right do I have to bring a child into the world? You know what I mean? So, yeah, fuck, man,
It
sorry.
sounds that way because like a lot of my purpose is like I don't even have a partner right now, but a lot of what I do is like, oh, well, one day when I have kids, I'm gonna be able to deliver X, Y, and Z. Like a big thing for me was, and all my friends used to joke about it. So my dad lives in Bali, so I never had a father figure around. So I had to really build internally my own father figure. But when I was like 18, 19, 20, we started, you know, my friends were going like dirt bike riding and snowboarding and wakeboarding. And it was this big joke like, oh, it's my first time. I've never done this before. I've never done anything.
Really?
And so I just went on this mission to learn how to do hobbies, not really well, but be able to do them. So when I have a son or a daughter, they go, hey, I want to know how to ride a dirt bike. I go, okay, I'll show you. If they want to learn how to fish, I'll show you. If they want to box, I can show you. I don't want to go, oh, I have to learn now.
Yeah.
Like a big part of my purpose is just like gaining all these skills, not for me, but so that when I have children, well, I've got them. And also like you always tell your kids, you know, you can be whoever you want, chase your dreams. Well, it's like, that's why I had to quit my full-time job and chase my dreams, because how can I say to my son or my daughter, chase your dreams? They go, oh, well, why didn't you? Then what kind of fucking role model am I?
Yeah.
100%. Like I was just thinking of that. There's do you know Alex Hormozy?
Yeah.
He has a quote that's he thinks there should be 100% death tax. So when you die, none of your money gets passed on. So the things that you do pass on is wisdom. So if you can pass on lessons and wisdom, it's like you teach someone to fish, feed them for life, or give them a fish to feed them for a day. That's like 100% what I think for my future kids, if I have kids, if I can, is that when I raise them, I want to teach them things. I don't want to give them things. And I said to someone the other day, I was like, I don't want to give my kids shit. And they were like, you want to bring them in a happy, healthy family? I was like, yeah, but happy, healthy family isn't giving them things.
Yeah.
It's teaching them things and raising them in a way that you can teach them to go snowboard or whatever. Instead of just like, here's $50, go spend it on something dumb. Or here's $1,000, got you out of jail again, kind of thing. That's not what I want to be.
Oh.
Fuck, man, this is a good pod.
The best one yet.
Yeah, the best one yet. Anything you want to shout out before we wrap up, or
Not in particular.
Do you have any advice for people?
how can people find the? I was going to say, how can people find the Cold Water Club?
So the Cold Water is on Instagram at @the.coldwaterclub, and I am at jai.simpar.
Spell your last name.
Simpar.
It'll be in the title.
It'll be somewhere on the screen.
You want to do the outro? You want me to?
You do the
I was
outro
going to
this
say,
week.
if you guys found this valuable, and people, if you want to go down to the Cold Water Club, hit up Jai and go and head down. I'm sure he'll be happy to have you.
Yeah, all are welcome.
But send this and share it with your friends if they find it valuable too. Let us know in the comments. We're trying to get to 5,000 YouTube subscribers by halfway through the year. All right. Have a great day, guys.
Bye.
Bye.